This month of March, I want to inspire you in so many ways, whether it's food, fashion, and of course, finances as well. Now, today's special guest is well known as the fairy godmother of the F&B industry. Think of a restaurant and she sparkled her magic on each restaurant to make it the hottest place in the city. Please welcome my guest, Shabnum. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me.
So it's been a very long time to try and pin you down, but I'm glad you're finally here.
It's a good sign that Dubai's super busy.
It's a good sign Dubai's super busy, and I think this is actually such a great platform to share your knowledge with so many of our viewers and listeners. You are known as the fairy I've named you as the fairy godmother of restaurants because you just have that magic touch. And often it's really hard to describe what that is specifically because you're touching on so many points in a restaurant. So the minute you walk into a venue, the hostess knows your name, your favorite table, your favorite dish, your favorite beverage, and all of these finer touches are really what you do for training.
Yeah, it's work in progress constantly because no two restaurants are the same. And I'm glad that it feels like that to any guests coming in because behind the scenes, it's obviously, I always equate it to the duck or the swan on the lake. It's moving seamlessly at the top and the legs are flapping underneath. So there's so many things that have to happen behind the scenes to ensure that every guest that comes in gets that same feeling. And I'd like to say that we try to get it as much as we can, but often there's times when we're not able to achieve that, but then it's about how you redeem yourself after that as well, which is equally as important.
So you're known as an entrepreneur. You have several restaurants under your belt. So the most famous one in the city, if you guys have not gone, I encourage you because we've actually filmed there and I've 100% embarrassed myself in the kitchen. I tried to cook, which Chef Alex politely showed me the other side of the kitchen. He's like, let me just cook for you. So I've been to BBDIFC, which was a dream. It was just comfortable, the lighting's beautiful, the menu's great. There was everything from healthy options to just something so different that was a little bit of a mixture of different cultures almost.
Exactly, yeah.
And it was just a great place you just want to hang out with your friends. So I feel like that was your magic touch, but it's really your baby.
That is, yeah, thank you.
And then we have a few more restaurants under the belt which have launched over time, which are?
Yeah, so I mean, the largest ones that we did here were the Zuma restaurants around. That was really the sort of stamp coming into the UAE. But most recently as well, just in the last year alone, was Namos in the Four Seasons in Jumeirah, and currently now the Arts Club in the IFC.
And what is actually the process of you looking at each restaurant? Because each restaurant is so individual, their clientele is so individual. How do you look at each restaurant and then separate what their USP is?
So it's really important to understand exactly what it is that business is trying to achieve and what it is that they're looking to get from opening up here in the region. And each two restaurants are very individual and very unique. And it's looking at their history, their legacy, what it is that they're trying to bring over, how much of when they exist in other countries, how much of that you bring over and how much you actually customize for the UAE market itself. So it's really finding all of those points, like what it is that they're bringing to the table and what it is that the consumer here wants to actually have and trying to marry those two together. And often a lot of that is to do with the teams that you actually have in place and being able to put in, we always say standards, and the standard is basically a routine that you can, complete day in, day out at the same level and standard that, the brand wants to establish.
So the top 3 restaurants you mentioned have locations globally. What is the different, aspects of when they come to the Middle East that you've noticed that the Middle Eastern client differs?
Yeah, so I think what's really unique here about the Middle East market is the actual, the people themselves, the consumer, right? I mean, in the UAE, we're so spoilt with the industry. We have every popular name, we have every famous chef, we have every possible ingredient, and we have, as we were just discussing earlier as well, that, over 11,000 restaurants here in a population that, certainly could afford to eat out in all of those places several times over in the same day, right? So I think what's really unique here is if you're going to open a business here, you have to be really good at what you're doing because you have to give a good enough reason for somebody to want to come to your restaurant versus anywhere else. And they could have it because it's more cost effective, it's closer to where they live, they might have better recognition in that venue, they might have a single dish that they prefer in one place, they go somewhere else for the atmosphere, they go somewhere else because, you know, it's more convenient to get to, you know, or somewhere they don't have to walk too far from. So there's lots of different reasons why, you know, somebody would sort of come out there, but coming into this region, it's really about understanding where you are, what you're doing, and who you have and who you're doing it for.
So your consultancy company, when would a restaurateur bring you in?
So it depends on lots of different things. So the great thing about us is we can work very modular. We can work across the whole concept from beginning to end. So we offer full turnkey. But also sometimes somebody will come in, we have the brand, we know what we're doing, we're opening it up, we have the design, we have the fit out, and we want you to come in. And, you know, one of my key strengths is my personal passion for technology. Okay, so I'm a bit of a you know, technology geek. So what's really good is about putting technology into that business. And you think F&B, you know, they don't really use a lot of technology, and people in F&B aren't really very friendly with technology. You know, they're constantly cursing at printers and computers because they don't work, and often because they're just not plugged in, right?
Yeah.
So that's always been one of my biggest strengths in the industry, is being able to match those two things together, right? Is being able to bring in the latest technologies or the latest solutions in that help, like you mentioned before, recognition of the guest. What does the guest like? How to ensure that the next time that guest
just doing as much data capture, right?
Completely, and then knowing what to do with it. Right?
Exactly.
You know, it's all great to collect data at every point and have the best technologies in town, but if they don't actually work for you, then what's the point? Like, you're just collecting all this information, it becomes very overwhelming.
Yeah.
And especially if you know understanding of what you can do with it and how you can use it to make yourself better.
Yeah.
Right, and that's what it is. It's a constant evolution, right? Of learning how these things can help you improve to build and grow your business, right? And F&B is a long game, right? It's a long game. It's not something you open with the amount of investment that you have to put into it. It's not something you just open and think, okay, for 1 year I'm going to do great, and then walk away from it. So you really have to look and say, well, I'm investing in the right things. Where am I taking this? The same people that are coming in today, are they going to still be coming back to me in year 2, in year 3, in year 4, in year 5? And that's what you really have to use all the data that you're collecting for.
So when it comes to F&B, I think the most questions, it comes to food buying, right? Because everything's perishable. How do you become smart with your buy? Because you want to minimize these overheads and wastage, of course. And then the second question I want to ask you is, of course, the people business. Because as much as you have technology, people still want to come to a restaurant and have that warm feeling of being recognized, being a valued customer, and having an actual waiter come and serve you. So what's the secret of building your team, and of course, this constant problem of just wastage?
So I think they're both absolutely critical points within building a business, and especially in our industry. So in terms of perishable items and things, this is really about having the right people in your back of house, in, you know, understanding your logistics, making sure that the business that you're actually looking to set up is going to be, you're going to have a sustainable supply chain, right? And that's really important, especially in a country like Dubai, where we bring a lot of ingredients in. So it's really about knowing, okay, what is it that I'm trying to sell out there? And also not trying to do too much, right? Because if you're trying to please everybody with a menu that's so diverse, you know, often we get a lot of clients and they say, we want to have something for everyone, which is great. But knowing who your customer is also part of, you know, sort of the success of building a successful and busy restaurant. Because if you know that I cannot build and support everybody's, you know, sort of delights or everybody's taste, I want to be able to build, you know, sort of 40 key dishes that everybody's going to buy all of the time. And that's how you then manage your perishables. That's how you then manage which ingredients you've got and how much you utilize them across all your dishes across the restaurant, whilst keeping them unique and individual. And then, of course, you can have a lot of systems that show you, you know, what you've been selling, and, you know, what you've been buying, and how to make sure that this is, you know, sort of what they recommend. This is how it works. But again, it's all managed by people at the end of the day, because, you know, that little touch of, you know, recognition of a guest, even if I know your name, the system might tell me who you are, but the interactions I've had with you are something the system will never be able to
Yeah,
replicate.
I think it's emotion, right?
Yes,
Especially,
exactly.
and I honestly say when you're spending at a luxury price point, whether it's food or fashion or any of these industries, if you're not emotionally attached, there's no coming back. You're not having that return customer or return client coming back.
Exactly, but also it's a constant moving part, right? Because the customer's always changing,
Yeah.
and you as a business are constantly having to evolve and grow, right? So a guest might come in today and they might have made a booking at a certain time, and they might always want to sit at that table, or they might always get a lychee martini. But on that occasion, it might be a business meeting. It might be they're coming with family. Maybe they're coming for a different purpose. Maybe their circumstances have changed. And that's something that you can only learn through people, right?
Yeah.
And by having that recognition, by having that interaction, by speaking to somebody, I think this is what makes a success in the industry. Because when you come into a venue and you're recognized and you're made to feel special, or somebody remembers the details, it's like a relationship, right?
Yeah.
When your partner remembers details about who you are, they actually see you. This is a success.
Well, I think partner and relationships is another segment I'll get you on, because I can just talk for hours about that.
Yeah.
But yes, restaurants.
If your restaurant could be your best lover, then this would be the perfect place, right?
That's my food relationship.
It's probably why we love restaurants so much.
No, it's really important, especially building a team. No, you know what? One of the platforms here is really supporting small businesses, and that's what we really wanted to get across when we first started in season 1, is giving women a platform to exchange ideas. And with small businesses, they tend to start at home. So it could be a baking business, a cooking business for home food. How does one person scale it?
So that's really important, and the UAE is a brilliant platform for this, as you just mentioned. I think in the past it was very traditional in the way that if you had a good idea, you wanted to open a restaurant, you would have to typically put together a business plan, put together your concept, find an investor, someone that's willing to invest in you, find a location. You make such a huge amount of investment in a bricks and mortar site, and then you have to build it, fit it out. It's such a huge investment that you make for the chance that it may or may not work, right? And today you have the option of things like, cloud kitchens, you have, dark kitchens, you have delivery only modules, which means that really you get to try out your business. Scaling is one of the biggest challenges that even some of the successful single site restaurants here struggle with. And it really is about knowing what your skill sets are. Like, what is it that you're actually good at? If you're good at making or baking those cakes, and you're not good at managing a business, then you need to bring somebody in that's going to be able to help and support you on that. And restaurants are a team sport, so it is about having a good network of people that can support you, right? And that's critical in anything that you do, because if you don't have those people, or what skill sets you're missing, it's about finding the right people that can help plug that in for you. So again, things like what we might do as a consultancy is come and say, hey, you've got this area covered, we can come and help you with this, this, and this. And once you're running, what we do is we hire the right people and train them up to work with you, so that as we step out, we've deployed all that skill set back into your business, so your business runs in organically.
But when is that tipping point for that person who is starting in their home, in their kitchen, doing baking? When should they kind of make that choice to make a jump and really elevate their business?
So I think it really does depend on, let's say,
like, do you look at the volumes, or is it at a certain price where they hit a market cap within their own home?
Yeah, so I think it's a mixture of both. If you sort of look and think, well, okay, now I have, it's all about supply and demand, right? So if you start getting a lot more demand for what you can physically supply out from your own, for your existing premises, is when you should start looking out. Now, people generally just look at the traditional way, like, oh, I need to have my own kitchen, I need to have my own place, and that's where I need to start going, and that's where the costs start building up. And then they realize, it's just not feasible anymore, because the business model that worked in your kitchen is not one that's going to work in a much bigger establishment, because you have to have staff, you have overhead, you have rent, you have other costs that are coming in that make the business less feasible. So I think today it's about exploring other options and saying, okay, can I look at a satellite kitchen? Can I look at somebody else who can make that product for me using my recipe? Do I then invest that in marketing? How do I look at the promotion of that? How do I get my product out to a bigger sort of
audience,
bigger audience, without compromising the quality of what it is I'm trying to put out there. And today in Dubai, you've got a lot of those options around. And given the current market, there is a lot more openness for collaborations, for working, people like chefs being able to work and advise you on how to grow that. There is lots of people willing to do pop-ups within their own venues. And pop-ups are a huge thing right now. And that's a great way of testing out your business, right? Is that you realize, you see what the demand is out there. Because you might think, I have a product and it's great. This kale tabbouleh salad that I have, I absolutely love it. Yeah, but it's wonderful if it's, it's not
liked by many.
Of course, the idea is that everybody should like that kale tabbouleh salad as much as you do, right? But if only 10 people out of 100 like that, and actually they're all eating the lentil salad, I should probably focus my efforts on the lentil salad. And that's also an important skill factor, is knowing when to find out what's working and what's not. So you constantly have to evaluate the business. How is it running? Do I have enough people to justify this? And not to jump into opening multiple sites, thinking I need to be in so many different places to reach a bigger audience. When you start realizing all the costs start adding up and you're not necessarily getting the best sales possible in each of those locations, that's when the business starts to suffer.
So the past year has been tough for a lot of people, and especially in the F&B industry, not just in this region, but globally. You've seen so many restaurants close, big famous ones. Where do you think the problem lied?
So I think this is, last year I think was an anomaly, right? And this whole global pandemic, and I think it was very difficult for a lot of people, and it's been challenging times, like I say, in the F&B industry and for everybody worldwide, because the rules kept changing. So nobody could really establish a focused strategy plan of this is what I want to do with my business, because we didn't really know what was going to happen. And I think for every industry and every business, as long as they made the best possible plan to look after their employees as much as was possible, to ensure that, okay, hey, we're going to either just close and, we'll be back in touch with you as and when we're able to reopen. I think that was the best that most people could do, and I think everybody did try that. I think the biggest issue was people couldn't adapt quick enough.
Yeah.
And I think I always go back to, evolution is not survival of the fittest. It was the species that adapted the fastest.
Yes.
And I think that's where we've seen the real winners. And a lot of people have succeeded also within this.
No, I feel like BB was very quick to adapt. And like, I know I'm on your subscribers list, so I was able to get my favorite dessert in the middle of the night when I wanted it, right?
That's right, yeah. I mean, we had to change very quickly, and that was also part of our success, was being a community-based restaurant, right? We were constantly in communication with our customers, right? Because they were all part of our community, and that's exactly what BB was about. So what was great was the guests that were coming in and having their Thursday lunches with, all of their team were actually still ordering all those same items and having the team meetings on Zoom.
Yeah.
Right. So that trade still was able to continue. And then we were very fortunate to be able to expand out into satellite kitchens so that we could reach all of our customers that couldn't get to us. And I think that was really important. And then we took a real moment of evaluating what was working and what was actually selling. And what we realized, and as a result, is we were able to open up 3 separate businesses as a result of dishes that were just working so well on their own.
Amazing.
Yeah, so that was really good. I'm very fortunate because we had a very strong team, to be able to help us support that. But also our point long term was also, it didn't look like the market was changing very quickly. And even with the reduced number of tables that you were allowed to serve within the restaurant, you needed something else to supplement that business coming in. So I think a lot of people have sort of, explored the whole delivery model, and what we found is that consumers adapted very, very quickly. So not just restaurants, but consumers adapted very, very quickly to now scanning a QR code instead of holding a physical menu.
Yeah.
Accepting and understanding that food will travel to your home rather than you having to travel to the venue. And this, I think, has become the new normal, and it's a big consideration that a lot of venues have to now put into practice when they're opening.
And I think with the delivery model is making sure that your branding still connects, right? Not just putting it in like a paper bowl or something. The branding still has to connect and give you a little bit of that experience as much as possible.
I mean, look, today we're in this total digital age, right? I mean, I don't know, I will show my age here when I can tell you, okay, we know the difference between print and digital, right? But the new generation,
You can just say fax machine. And,
right, when ISDN, they have the dial-up. But today's generation don't know about printed, print media. It's just not part of their consideration. They can read newspapers and magazines online. Their world is, Instagram or TikTok or Snapchat. And so your brand really to succeed ongoing, like I say, for generations to come, is about how well it transfers across print and digital, because they don't see the difference. So your brand has to run the same across all of those platforms for you to get any kind of traction amongst that new generation, right? And if you can speak to them in the same way you could speak to your traditional crowd, then I think you really have a better chance of success.
This was so insightful. So we're talking about adaptation and technology. What happens if we get to a point where we just don't want to go to restaurants anymore and we're so comfortable ordering at home and entertaining at home? How can we fix that problem?
Oh, well, it's funny you say that, actually. It is something that has become the norm, and we do have the danger of becoming very lazy. I actually recently just launched a tech platform, actually, which enables you to buy a drink and send it to anybody anywhere in the world. Okay, so the whole purpose of that would be that, if you wanted to send somebody a gift in general, you would either go online or go on an app and buy that here. So how did we link that to what is my primary love, which is F&B and restaurants? What we thought was, when you're actually sending somebody something, a gift or anything else like that, you're actually sending them an emotion, or you want to make them feel in a certain way. So whether it's a celebration, whether you're giving them a gift, or you want to uplift their day. So actually what you're sending them is an emotion or a moment, right, that you want to share with them. So we launched a platform called Mixol, where you're able to send a drink to anybody anywhere in the world. And if I send you a gift, you'd get it on your email or WhatsApp, and you could take that into a venue and redeem that in the venue, right?
That's brilliant. So it's a great way to bring people back into restaurants.
Exactly. So that way you're always looking for ways of how you can drive people back into a venue. That's pretty much what it works on.
And then you can just pay it forward as well.
Pay it forward to then, if you've received a gift from somebody else, then you're able to buy something for somebody else and send that on. So the chain never stops and it keeps on going. And the idea is to get that around the globe, so that basically we are encouraging people to get back into F&B venues everywhere.
I learned so much. Thank you so much for being a part of the show.
Thank you so much.
Waited to get you on and to get to spend time with Shab. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
But before you go, the motto of Indigo Living is living beautifully. What does that mean to you?
So I think it's very interesting that it's so personal as well on so many levels. I think living beautifully is believing in what you can do, and believing in yourself, and believing in what you're able to do, and then being able to go out and do that, or at least strive to go and achieve that.
That's brilliant. I'm going to let you do a shout out. You can talk about your company, because I know so many people would love to hear how they can hire you and how you can spread some of your magic on their businesses.
Thank you so much. I mean, if you do need any advice or anything about opening up a restaurant, or any particular part within that business, or you're looking at growing, or even wanting to know if it's a good idea, then I'm always available for a chat and to be able to help where I can. I mean, a lot of it is based as well on experience. And if it's not something I can help you with, I can definitely connect you up with the right people.
That's brilliant. A true entrepreneur, always solving problems. I love it. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me.
And thank you to you for joining us each week, not only on the podcast, but on YouTube, as well as all the other social media sites as well. Each week I have the privilege of interviewing so many incredible women who get to share their stories from small businesses to big businesses. And as they share their lessons, failures, and of course, their incredible achievements. Thank you for joining us, and make sure you like, follow, and enjoy. Keep watching old episodes and send us DMs. We'd love to hear from you. See you next week.